When your organization undertakes change, one of your senior management's biggest challenge will be to steer the course despite all the obstacles that are coming their way. Now, in order to do that, they can count on 4 strategic levers. First one is governance, then alignment, sponsorship, and finally capacity. So let's talk about governance. I'm thinking about this project I was doing in a government environment. There were 3 deputy ministers that were responsible for this project. Now, every time we needed a decision, one wouldn't take the decision because they expected the other 2 to make that decision. Moreover, there was no one representing the needs of the people that were going to be impacted by that change. So under those circumstances, none of the critical decisions were made and there was no momentum to the change. Then what is governance? Well, a good governance will ensure that decision makers represent the people that will be impacted by the change, but also that they will have the courage to make the hard decisions when it's required. So now let's talk about alignment. I have this project in mind where everybody agreed that the main objective of the project was to deliver flexibility to their client. The problem was they didn't have the same definition. Actually, there were 2 very different definitions of flexibility going around in the organization. For one group, it meant that whenever my customer wants his order, I'm able to put him in front of everybody else on the production line. For the other group, it meant that if my customer wants something special, we're able to customize his product before it gets into the production line. Now, 2 very different meanings, totally disaligned. So what happened? Well, the team had spent the last 6 months going in circle, not really understanding what was expected of them. And the change lost its momentum because people were thinking, well, if they don't know where they're going, we're going to move on to something else when they know they can tell us. So for the momentum of your change to settle in, everybody must row together at the same rhythm and in the same direction. That's the only way you're going to win the race. Let's take the example of 2 managers. The first one will say, yeah, I support this change. But as we get closer to implementation, he will rally with his employees and start complaining about the change. The second one will ask a lot of questions and make sure he gets all the answers, just to be sure he understands the change and he can vouch for it. Now, which one of those 2 managers do you think has most chances of leading his team to successful change? Sponsorship is often cited as the key success factor in most literature. But what is sponsorship? Well, a good sponsor will have the courage to question his own reactions, but will also have the desire to take the time to rally the troops and mobilize his team. So here's an organization where people are already working 60 hours a week, and they've been doing so for the last 6 months. They're already overloaded. Now, at the same time, they have to implement an ERP system, to implement Six Sigma, and senior management just decided to implement a new night shift to increase productivity. Stop it. There's just no more capacity to take any more projects. It's just like a lemon. When there's no more juice in the lemon, there's no point in squeezing it over and over and over again. There is just no more juice in it. So managing capacity is about seeing all the pressures on a group and being able to prioritize accordingly. When we do a detailed capacity analysis, it will allow us to look at where the problems are and start building scenarios so that we can resolve all those capacity issues. So if you think that wanting it bad enough is going to make it happen, well, it won't. When you think about a change, you have to make sure that you have the capacity to make it happen, that your sponsors will have the desire and the ability to take the time it will require to rally their troops and mobilize their team. They also need to make sure that all of their team is aligned on why we're changing, where we're going. And finally, all of this needs to sit on a solid governance structure that will have the courage to make the tough decisions when it's needed. I'm Manon Champagne, co-founder and president of A+ Transition.